I like to be proven wrong, I like to be pleasantly surprised. When it happens at the same time, even better. The Fanatec Clubsport DD Plus leapfrogged my rather mild preconceptions to quickly become one of my very favourite wheelbases. Why? Because despite Fanatec's uppity ecosystem, despite the high-ish price, despite the track record of frayed customer service, I found that I absolutely love the way the CSDD Plus actually feels, and which of those is the most important factor at the end of the day. So very smooth, filtered, but not spoiled, quiet, balanced, natural. This plates up such a warm, cozy, but classy force feedback experience that the glaring deficits elsewhere at Fanatec can easily be overlooked. For those still deciding on a brand to go with, Fanatec CSDD Plus would seem lukewarm value due to the price. There are bases in its weight class that are much cheaper and just as appealing. Really, it's those who are already invested in Fanatec that will be most interested in this as a direct upgrade and who will want to know if it's any good. And I can tell you, even among the likes of Asetek, Simagic, Moser, even VRS, this stands comfortably among my favourite wheelbases I've tested to date, certainly in the top 3. Told you I was surprised. Before we get into it, the Clubsport DD Plus featured was provided by Fanatec free for review. However, this is a review, not an ad. Good and bad points will be covered as I see them, and all words are my own. Watch the whole video with pros and cons before making a decision. But if you do proceed to buy, then using the affiliate link in the video description to travel to Fanatec will help support me and this channel to continue doing what I do, and thank you. As a result of both of those points, I do mark videos of this nature as paid promotion in YouTube. Finally, although one of the CSDD Plus's standout features is PlayStation compatibility, this video is created from a PC sim racing perspective. I don't own a PlayStation and can't comment from experience, so bear this in mind if you're on console. Some points of reference may not apply to your situation, and my apologies for that. So first up, a quick summary. The force feedback is very good, feels luxurious, comfortable and well refined. Not as razor sharp or hard edged as others can be, but the overall feel is exceptionally clear, well balanced, refined, natural. I drive very well with ease on this. It's perhaps the quietest wheelbase I've ever used, minimal knocking and clanking coming from the base or that solid QR2 system. Fanatec has increased their general warranty to 3 years recently, which is great. Shipping time has greatly improved, and one hopes Fanatec's historically mediocre customer service will follow suit, but it's going to take time for that to show following Fanatec's acquisition by Corsair, but it's all moving in a generally better direction. Fanatec's biggest downside is the closed ecosystem, which means whilst their own brand wheels are pretty good value and seamless to connect, it can cost more and be more finicky to use third-party wheels with this than you would find on other brands. The FullForce feature is interesting, but it's barely implemented into the sim racing world at present, and there's a risk it may never be widely adopted at this rate, so don't factor it into the decision unless your sim is known or confirmed that it will be supported. Overall, the CSDD Plus gives you a solid top-end force feedback experience. It won't disappoint. It's a strong, quiet and smooth wheelbase with a great quick release. It's just going to be a question of budget, not a question of whether you'll like it, because you will. In the box, you'll find a basic complement of stickers, a power supply with cables and a USB lead, and the wheelbase itself. In the hand, the Clubsport DD Plus is hefty and stout. At the front is that metal QR2 quick release interface. The midsection is carved with the metal splines and ribs of the chassis. Some of them serve the purpose of making the wheelbase side mountable, so it's not all for show. At the rear you have this gloss bowl with the Fanatec branding and the connection ports at the rear. Do take care to avoid tension in the cables, as these ports are known to break if accidentally tugged with force. Overall, it looks well finished and stylish. If you're on PC, software installation is, in theory, pretty straightforward now with the all-in-one Fanatec app. However, at the time of review, this modernised software is brand new, literally version 1.0, and has a few teething troubles, so maybe wait for a few updates down the road before jumping onto the brand new software. For example, I got a CSDD Plus installed, connected, used the new Fanatec app, and found that it wasn't detecting my wheelbase in the app properly, going up and down, in and out of detection status. Nothing seemed to work, and for a moment I thought I had a unit that was dead on arrival. To actually get it working, I installed the old style software, which worked fine, updated the firmware there, then it was detected in a new app, and I've had no trouble since. Something to keep in mind until the kinks are ironed out with the new software. During my tests, I'm going to be using the Fanatec F1 Esports wheel, the CSL P1 V2 wheel, and this Grid RSR third-party wheel. Fanatec now possesses one of the best quick release systems in the sim racing space, super solid, snug, and requires no pause for thought. You can't accidentally disorient the wheel like you can on Simagic and Moses systems, and I can happily forget Fanatec's QR1 ever existed. It's all in the past, and this is a great improvement. So let's get straight into it, the driving and force feedback. My impressions of the driving experience overall were above expectation. I was quite surprised how well aligned it is to what I hoped for from force feedback. It's not as brutally raw and digitally electrifying as some wheelbases out there, but it seems so very natural when it comes to communicating weight transfer and car balance. Very smooth and very quiet. It's not dramatic or violent in any way. Great for those who want to remain on good terms with any fellow occupants of the house. In terms of raw power, raw muscle, the 15 Nm of the Clubsport DD Plus qualifies as more than enough for pretty much everyone of all ages, including full-grown adults. This is a strong wheelbase that can flesh out the experience thoroughly and commands itself properly whether you use a light wheel or a heavy one. No wobbliness, no overshooting, no wispiness with my heavier Grid RSR wheel. It's clear and in control, stable. If you're not sure whether 15 Nm is going to be enough for you, then it almost definitely will be. Because if you need more than 15 Nm, then you already know you do. For the vast majority, this is plenty to play with. It's customary to run the wheelbase itself at 100% force feedback in the Fanatec settings, then tune the power or gain within each simulator or game. For example, in Le Mans Ultimate, I find myself running it at around 40% force when I'm using the 270mm F1 wheel, whereas on a bigger radius wheel such as a Grid RSR wheel or the Fanatec CSL P1 V2, I'll run it at 50 to 60%. The point I'm making is that there is a fair bit of overhead that I can still use if I want to. I'm very, very happy with how the CSDD Plus feels in every title I'm most familiar with, namely iRacing, Le Mans Ultimate and Dirt Rally. If I could describe the CSDD Plus's force feedback in a few words, it would be comfortable, refined, balanced, stable. I find myself very surprised by how well it distills out the grittiest and noisiest elements of high force feedback, while still feeling wholly unfiltered and direct when it comes to the greater vehicle dynamics, the slower, more ponderous forces that actually give you mid-corner information, the forces that define confidence on turning, placement of the car mid-corner, and clarity on exit. It's good. I also doubt very much that anyone's going to find the Clubsport DD Plus's feedback brash or badly tuned. I can trust it to feel good for everyone without really even trying. I run this with zero damping, filtering or interpolation, and it's just perfectly placed for me as is. In Le Mans Ultimate, it's crystal clear with a great sense of weight transfer once the tyres are warmed up. The smoothness in the wheelbase allows you to listen closely to those shifts in grip. In iRacing, it's brilliantly smooth and communicates weight transfer so well, and yet I had a great time also in Dirt Rally. The CSDD Plus just has a personality that's very natural and easy to get on with. In rally especially, you need your equipment to fade into the passenger role as you concentrate on your mental flow and sink into unconscious movement. And I definitely found that easy here. I simply find myself admiring how this wheelbase feels in general, more so than I expected. It's been a nice surprise. I came into this expecting to be mildly whelmed. I didn't expect to fall in love. It reminds me very much of the VRS DFP20 in terms of underlying character. My reviews don't rely on data, they rely on emotion. I go by vibes, and I can't explain how I know which wheelbases are really speaking to me. I just do, and there's a warm personality coming from this wheelbase which will make it superb for newcomers and long-standing enthusiasts alike. I've been going for years, experienced many brands, and had simply assumed I'd outgrown Fanatec, but I was wrong. After a couple of weeks of testing, I actually concluded to be a very close second place to VRS in terms of my ability to feel what's going on with a car. That is massive praise. If I take the lower noise levels and general peacefulness of the base into consideration, the CSDD Plus is actually a serious threat to becoming my main wheelbase of choice, so I can do after hours racing without making such a disturbance. It's a real close call. For reference, here's a clip of the CSDD Plus compared to the VRS DFP15 going through the first few corners of the Le Mans circuit. You'll see why I stress the decibels. I reviewed the 12Nm Clubsport DD over a year and a half ago when it was relatively new. I would say that the CSDD Plus in the present day feels much better, so clearly Fanatec have been working hard, distilling and maturing things via firmware since then. So the feedback is superb, surprisingly so, but what about that FullForce feature you might have heard about? FullForce was meant to be Fanatec's answer to Logitech's TrueForce system, which is basically a way of introducing an extra layer of special force feedback effects that you feel through the wheel, such as engine vibration, gear shifts, road textures and the like. This trumpeted feature was to be introduced with the Clubsport DD and DD Plus, and are so far the only wheelbases from Fanatec that support the feature, and at the time was a reason for some excitement. However, nearly 2 years after it was first presented to us, it's barely supported or able to be used. iRacing is the only simulator that can allow you to utilise FullForce at the time of review, would you believe? To its credit, it's a window into what might be possible down the line. It does produce strong vibration haptics, and it can be quite intense if you want it to be, transmitting engine vibrations and various little deflections and sprinkles of road texture. So, in the Fanatec software, you get a FullForce test, a FullForce demo, which essentially simulates a typical lap with a bunch of FullForce effects sprinkled in. And you can just click the left shifter paddle to start the demo. And this also serves as a good demonstration of how quiet the wheelbase is. Anyway, so I'm just going to hold the left shifter paddle down, and you can barely hear the wheelbase and the FullForce over the fans on my PC. So here we go. That wasn't a great deal to look at, really, but if you're not into iRacing, if you're into LMU or something else, Asetek Corsa, then that's the best you're going to get from a FullForce sample until it's implemented. If you have zero haptic or vibration feedback on your rig right now, FullForce does inject a big lashing of life to the experience that you'll either love or hate, and it is optional, by the way. But it's rendered redundant if adding a butt kicker or vibration shaker to your cockpit, something that I highly recommend, by the way. I tested FullForce with my butt kicker unit turned off for that very reason. It would immediately be drowned out by the much beefier shaker unit, so if you are able to use FullForce and you like it, then you'll love a butt kicker with its stronger, more global impact on your rig and not just vibration focused on your hands. This whole observation could also be levelled at Logitech's TrueForce system as well, but at least that is supported across several games and sims. It's been a source of embarrassment to Fanatec that the FullForce feature has so far been met with tumbleweeds by game and sim developers. It may grow and develop in the future to be more worthwhile, but as always, don't buy something based on a future promise. FullForce could ultimately be forgotten and never fulfill the potential. So far there's a lot to love, but what about the definite downsides? I did say there were some. The biggest thing that works against the CSDD Plus is the price, and it's not just the CSDD Plus itself, it's the surrounding elements too. If you're on PC and you have no intention to benefit from the PlayStation compatibility, you'll be paying that so-called PlayStation tax regardless, and that €999 price tag makes it one of the priciest in its weight class compared to things like the VRS DFP15, which is considerably cheaper. But if you want to use third-party wheels with a Fanatec base, you also have to pay higher than average costs to get it done. Unlike most other manufacturers, the wheelbase has to be paired with a Fanatec wheel or Fanatec hub in order for the wheelbase to work at all, because those wheels and hub contain an electronic chip that the wheelbase needs to talk to in order to work. You can't just put a generic metal hub on it and call it a day. The other practical issue caused by this is that it's more hassle to run different wheels because they may result in different hub heights with no way to correct it. If you're just using Fanatec wheels, then this problem is largely controlled, but if you're mixing and matching third-party wheels, then you end up with an issue. This is the CSL P1 V2 wheel, and this is the Grid RSR wheel with the podium hub. There's no official way to extend that CSL wheel to match the height of the RSR, nor is there a way to reduce the height of the RSR wheel. It's one of Fanatec's biggest weak points and is a leftover of a previous landscape whereby they had less competition and could get away with this. But in the present day, all it does is suppress the appeal of the whole system somewhat, at least for those whom this will be a concern. The multidiscipline sim racers that equally love drift, rally, road, and so on. Corsair, if you're listening, it's time to liberate Fanatec wheelbases from this requirement. So, because of Fanatec's ecosystem, there will be two types of customers for which the CSDD Plus makes perfectly good sense. If you already have a couple of Fanatec wheels that you've picked up along the way and you like them, then you might weigh things up and feel that it's simpler and cheaper to remain on a Fanatec path and upgrade to the CSDD Plus from whatever you have now, be it a CSLDD or older. The one thing you'll be wondering is whether you're missing out by doing so, and I can tell you that you aren't. The CSDD Plus is an impressive wheelbase in its own right, achieving an excellent force feedback feel that is also tremendously smooth and refined. You're faced with a clear choice: does it work for your budget or not? Will it be cheaper to keep your wheels and pay the slightly higher wheelbase cost, as opposed to selling everything off to Switch brands wholesale and taking the hit on the used cost price? If you stick with Fanatec, if a budget is kinder to stay, then at least you'll get a force feedback experience that I consider to be excellent, and it will make sense for you to go for it. In your shoes, knowing how well this wheelbase stacks up to the competition, I would. The other type of customer that will be drawn to the CSDD Plus, like a Flame, are PlayStation sim racers, and unfortunately, as I don't have a PS4 or PS5, I can't really tell you what it's going to be like for you, but what I can tell you is that if you're seriously considering one of these, then you're no doubt serious about sim racing, which means it's only going to be a matter of time and convenience before you make the jump to PC in order to enjoy the more mature sim racing scene. When you do, this will be among the best companions to transition seamlessly with, because it stands respectably firm amongst wheelbases from other PC-only brands I've used. You won't be missing out. The third type of customer that isn't covered by those two are those without an existing Fanatec relationship or without a PS console. If you're on PC and you're looking to jump into sim racing with a buy once, cry once mentality, and you're just trying to pick the right way to go, if you choose the CSDD Plus, then you will be paying slightly over the odds compared to other brands. Some of that is down to the PlayStation tax that seems to lumber Fanatec's PlayStation compatible wheelbases and other goods, but the feedback experience, the very thing that matters most, will be very good, and that now 3-year warranty is among the longest in class, and you're unlikely to run into any compatibility or drivability issues with the various sim racing titles you'd want to play. Fanatec is a top tier manufacturer in the eyes of most developers, and so you should run into few issues. This is a decent choice for those who just want to guarantee that everything agrees with each other when it comes to setting up your sim and game. It costs more to do so, but there is at least some merit to it, so it's not just more money for the sake of it. In truth, Any issues that you do face are most likely to come from within. Fanatec's shipping seems to be operating like a normal company nowadays, thank goodness for that, but it takes longer for the stains to wash out when it comes to customer service. In the past they've been slow and clunky, so we'll have to wait and see if sentiment improves in that department following Corsair's acquisition. The trend is seemingly heading towards positive skies though, so it's not getting worse at least. If you wanted rock-solid customer service, bordering on the level of concierge, Simagic or VRS are better known for it. Fanatec definitely isn't. This all leads me into my conclusion nicely, because Fanatec's historic weaknesses are often all anyone talks about when you think of Fanatec, but clearly the customer service and fulfillment departments coming under fire have left the programmers free to quietly build one of the most balanced and sure-footed force feedback experiences that I've had so far. It's perfectly proportioned with a good grasp of itself. It's not quirky, it's just solid and stable, no nonsense. It has restored my sentiment towards Fanatec as still being very serious when they try. All that remains to answer is whether it suits you to pay the added cost for it against the alternatives. That's a question that really only you can answer. There we go. I hope this was entertaining and informative. If you have questions, then please feel free to comment. And remember, if you've made up your mind and do proceed to buy the CSDD Plus, using the affiliate link in the video description to do so supports me at no added cost to you. Details in the description. Cheers again.